one if you're here before the part. And I'll be here too to answer any questions on any matter. So, you're on remote.
Okay, how's it sound? Nope. Yep. I think I'm on. I'm on. Woo. All right, thank you so much for having me, David and Ed and your group. I really enjoy speaking about nutrition to all groups, of course, but I have a heart for cancer in particular. My father had my father-in-law had prostate cancer, very common. So I just have a heart for health, and nutrition can be used as food, as medicine. So let's really think about this, kind of just, have that thought as we move through the talk today, because we know that nutrition and food is life, it's fun, it's social, it's joy. I mean, we look forward to our next meal or our next snack. But aside from that, food really does have medicinal qualities, and we're going to drill down and talk a little bit about that. So I'm not here to be a party pooper, but I'm here to be the messenger of goodwill, that the things that we put into our mouth really can impact our health and change the tide for us. So with that, all those letters, I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, licensed in the state of Florida, and CLT is, I'm a certified LEAP therapist, and that's just that I got specialized training in what's called food sensitivity. So a lot of people walking around not tolerating foods well, and I have had specialized training in helping people identify what foods are bugging them and how to help take those out and so forth. So, I like science, and nutrition is very much a science field. So today we're going to take on the many ways that food can really, really impact our health. And as you can see here, I'm going to really try to speak into this mic so the recording comes out well and I don't hear any negative comments about the recording. But today, inflammation and oxidative stress, those fancy words, inflammation is the root of all evil, not money. And so anytime that we expose ourselves, whether it's a chemical that's, furniture polish, or we're changing the oil in our car, or we're eating foods that are processed that have chemicals and preservatives, those things, when we don't detoxify them and eliminate them, they create inflammation in our body. And so that's what can start anything: digestion, liver, kidneys, cardiovascular, cancer, metabolism disorders. So it just goes on and on. So we really want to think about, can we clean up our food supply? It's tough because we've gotten used to the taste of convenience foods. We've gotten used to the taste of things out of a package, out of a box, that you throw into the microwave, that you can get at the pickup line, at the fast food store. So all those things that we're now addicted to, all those things contain all of these inflammatory chemicals that bring about what's called oxidative stress, that then starts all of these processes. So let's talk about what some of these things are. Sugar. We all know we love sugar, but sugar is highly addictive. I mean, the reality is that they have tested it backwards and forwards, and sugar is more addictive than heroin or cocaine. I mean, we're not drug addicts here that I know of, let's just say, and no judgment if you are, but sugar is legal. Those other things are illegal because they're not good for you. But yet, we eat the heck out of sugar, right? So I'm just here to, speak the truth, about something that is so amazing, but so amazingly harmful to us as well. I mentioned processed foods because of the chemicals, toxins, and pesticides that are in those foods. It's in the water. Young lady here was asking me if she could get me water, and I said, no, thank you, I brought my own. And I'm really picky about what I put in my body. And I have a reverse osmosis water filter in my house, and I'm a weirdo, I'll confess. I fill up a couple of these stainless steel bottles, and I take them to work with me, and that's what I drink when I'm out of the house until I get home. I'm a weirdo. I just don't want to get the chemicals, the drugs. Did you know that tap water contains, unfortunately, the old pills that people throw into the toilet or goes into the landfill that goes through into our water? You know, we're taking in people's birth control, heart medication in our water just because we don't do a good enough job for our, public to really protect ourselves. So water filter is a really good idea for your house, for as much of that water as you can have, to reduce this effort. So trans fats, thinking of things that are food-wise, right? Those are artificial fats, and back in the day, butter was bad, so we made margarine. We made some fake butter, put a little yellow food coloring in it, and don't have butter, but have a lot of margarine. That is a kind of artificial fat that actually is very inflammatory. We now know that that causes high cholesterol and inflammation of the heart. So we should stay away from margarine and anything on a box that ever says trans fats. So much so now we know that manufacturers are listing trans fats as an option, and so you can read if it has any trans fats or not. So pay attention on the side of your box, and companies that try not to have it will have a zero there. Artificial sweeteners, again, advent of, the 60s and 70s, everybody was having Diet Coke, it's so much better than sugar. Well, all sodas are bad for us. Regular Coke and Diet Coke, because the artificial sweeteners are not good for us. We don't even eliminate it. Our bodies are not equipped to get rid of all the artificial things that we consume. So, we really need to limit how much artificial sweeteners we consume alongside the regular sugar. And then we're not going to get started on things that are common things that most people eat and tolerate, like wheat and dairy. Most of us tolerate it, but there's a section of our population that they're having digestive issues. And I work with a lot of digestive people. That's like my biggest new thing that I'm working with. Not new, but many more so than before. Because people are finding that the way that our food is processed, the way that the seeds have been chemically changed in the lab, okay, and then grown, the processes for farming, all those things change what wheat looks like. And then the things that we do to our cows to get the milk, all of the things that come to us in the cheese and in the milk and in the yogurt from the antibiotics and the other chemicals, we end up with those. So many people just don't tolerate those food groups. So these are just categories of things that can help things go south. I also wanted to mention that we get exposure to chemicals and toxins, not just from our food and our water, but from the shampoo we use, and the lotion, and the sunscreen, and the makeup that we use, us ladies, 2 or 3. So we really need to be thinking about if you're using products that have a bajillion microscopically listed ingredients on there, there's probably some not so good products in there. So the way that we can run into exposure of these things is vast. So if we can educate ourselves and move in the direction, cruise ships are huge, right? And in order for them to change direction, it's going to take them a little time. So you're in a big cruise ship, that's your body. It's the only one you're ever going to get, unless you believe in reincarnation. And what you want to think about is changing the trajectory of your cruise ship to the direction of health, okay? So just, work on some of these things a little at a time. You might walk out of here discouraged and overwhelmed after my talk today, but you can just start in some basic places. That's what I encourage you to do. Insufficient sleep, it's underrated, so we need to get good sleep so that we restore our body and wake up fresh and ready to go. And chronic stress, look, we're just humans on this planet in 2019, and stress is just going to be there. But chronic stress, so we need to educate ourselves for what can we do to manage our stress better. This is a nutrition talk. Why am I talking about stress? because it's all part of the inflammation and your health package, okay? And so when you say, I'm gonna do deep breathing exercises and relax myself when I feel panicky, when you say, oh, I'm gonna go to meditation class, or there are apps on your phone that you can do meditation, or you're gonna exercise, all those things help with stress. Guys, do not leave good stuff on the table that will help you. And don't poo-poo stuff that you don't know anything about. Learn about it. You can do it. Okay, so variety is the spice of life. So one of the things that I get really on a big soapbox about is if you're comfortable, raise your hand, and if not, that's okay. Who here eats about the same thing every day and you don't care, but you just eat the same thing every day? Right? Yeah, there's a few of us, and it's just called creatures of habit. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but what is possibly not so good about it is that you miss out on eating a variety of nutrients. And if for some reason, God forbid, some of the foods that are your favorites are not so good, guess what you're eating a lot of? A lot of the not so good foods that you shouldn't be eating in the first place. So you could just be packing in the whatevers that are not the good things and missing out on all the other options that are out there. So variety is the spice of life. That's how we get all of the nutrients that we really need. So fruits and vegetables, oh my gosh, you just have to put a thing of fruits and vegetables up here next time, and you don't have to invite me and say, Nora was here. So, but that is definitely where it's all at. You know, organic, when possible, it's impossible for us to eat organic all the time. I like the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 guide, and you can get that. You can Google the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, and then it'll take you to the Environmental Working Group, and they're the non-for-profit organization that has these great lists of, you know, ways to keep. They even have not just fruits and vegetables, but better products. They have like a whole list of good products versus not so good products. So they have kinds, and it's all free. You know, healthy fats. I mean, face it, back in the day, like in the 60s, it was low fat, low fat, low fat. And then for years. And today you go to doctors who have not kept up with the literature, and it's not low fat anymore. I could just scream every time that I sit with a patient and they say, well, my doctor told me to follow a low fat diet. And I'm like, what planet is he from? No. Okay, it's okay to stay away from trans fats and too many saturated fats, because saturated fats are the ones from animal fats, like beef, right? Or the chicken skin, the best part, or the whole milk and all the fat that's in the dairy products. But those are saturated fats, and those we should not be eating a lot of. But olive oil, nuts, seeds, those are good. And if you like butter, you can choose organic butter, and I promise you, you are not going to make your cardiovascular disease worse. A little bit of butter on a piece of whole wheat toast is not going to be your end. I'm telling you. So avocados, okay, these are all the healthy fats. And if we fill up on those, we're not going to be hungry, and we're not going to be seeking and searching for carbs, which is our weak point. That's the thing, the sugar that we're always looking for. So fill up on healthy fats so that you're satisfied and full. Again, I recommend organic dairy because of the antibiotics that are you know, the cows are treated with, and frankly, the pesticides and the grains and things that they eat, unfortunately. So when you have organic milk or organic cheeses or yogurts, those then don't have those ingredients. So if you have disposable income to have some blocks of your diet in the organic area, that would be a good one to lean in the direction of.
Could you please define organic dairy or organic poultry?
Oh, so organic anything, whether it is an animal or a plant that is organic, it cannot be grown or fed any food that was grown with pesticides. So the animal could not have eaten foods that had pesticides. It had to be organic food or feed. And then they cannot have been given antibiotics prior to, slaughter.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So the question was the definition of organic. So that applies to the animal, but then also with fruits and vegetables, just no pesticides. They have natural ingredients that they can use to control pests, but they're not considered chemical pesticides. So there's the difference. They're not harmful to us. Very good question. And then whole grains. I mean, I could do a whole talk on the difference between whole grains and processed grains. And, look, it's tough because the market is about 99.9% processed grains and about maybe 1% whole grain. You have to search like a needle in a haystack to find good bread. I'm just throwing it out there. Ezekiel bread is a good one.
How do you spell that?
Ezekiel, Ezekiel, and it's in the frozen section at Publix. Dave's Killer Bread, which is on the shelf at Publix, and they have several varieties. So that's a couple of brands that they've come out with that are whole grain and have good ingredients. So there are a few options, but pretty much the rest of them are just laden with things that we don't need. It's tough. But aside from bread, then there's pasta, and then there's crackers, and then there's the goodies. And so really, so much of our diet is filled with processed grains that it makes it tough. It makes it tough. Yes, sir.
Back to dairy, almond milk,
So almond milk is an option in place of cow's milk, that they take the almonds and they soak them and they squeeze them, and then it's just like diluted almonds with water, filtered water. And there's no, chemicals in that. It's pretty much a little bit of preservatives, but the ones that they use are not harmful ones.
They're high in sugar, aren't they?
So there's sweetened almond milk and unsweetened almond milk. There's both. There's one with vanilla, there's some with chocolate and sugar. It's good. Chocolate's always good. Anything else? No. So let's keep it moving, because we definitely want to get your questions. So this plate right here, I would edit it if it was me. I would make it all vegetables, okay? Now fruits are good, don't get me wrong. I would put fruit over here on the side and say, a piece of fruit with every meal is good, but we do not eat enough vegetables. There have been so many tests, scientific studies done that hands down, the populations and the people who eat more vegetables, win the health race, because that means that we have that many more anti-cancer fighting chemicals, good nutrients in our bodies. So these are the power nutrients right here, the vegetables, and we need to eat way more. One serving is a half cup, and we need between 5 and 9 servings a day. So, you can, just fill up your plate, just make more. You don't have to make, 3 different vegetables, just make more broccoli, make more green beans, make more squash, and eat more.
would you quantify how many cups of vegetables you're supposed to have?
So a half cup of cooked is equal to a serving, or a cup of raw, like lettuce. And so the recommended number of servings per day for really good health is 5 at the lowest, and 9 would be really good. Yes, cups.
You would recommend organic because with all the chemicals on the regular one.
So what I do personally, because I don't want to drive myself crazy either, and I only have so much money, is I use the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, and the Dirty Dozen means those are the top 12 that have been found to have the most pesticides year after year when they analyze them. They redo the list every few years. And so I tend to always buy the Dirty Dozen in the organic type, and then the others, if it's available, fine, and if not, I don't worry about it. So that's a good guide. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. In the interest of getting more vegetables, you could be getting more pesticides. But look, you have to have a hierarchy. I'd rather you get more vegetables, even if they're not organic, because you're gonna get phytonutrients and good chemicals and healthy things to help your cells. If you don't have those, you know, you're dead in the water anyway. So I'd rather you have them, and then just really power up your body with a lot of fiber, so there's a lot of elimination going on, drink a lot of water, so there's a lot of elimination going on, and you're getting rid of the pesticides and the chemicals through detoxification.
What about the canned vegetables, or the spinach?
Yeah.
lettuce, or-
Nothing wrong with canned vegetables. I mean, canned, frozen, fresh, they're all good. Yep, I'm a fan of any.
I got a question regarding turkey. I've been a fan of having a turkey sandwich at lunch. Pardon?
One more time.
I've been a fan of having a turkey sandwich at lunch for 100 years.
Right.
I just don't know what kind of turkey we can buy anymore. I've been trying to buy the stuff that says no antibiotics, all natural, blah, 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 but it's still processed meat, is it not?
Well, so the question is about eating turkey sandwiches every day and buying the best quality possible. And you mentioned that you look for the words no antibiotics. I think that's as best as you can get. In order for meat to stay healthy in a package, they're going to put a little bit of preservatives, but those preservatives really aren't bad for us in that regard. You're doing a good job at eating a lean, antibiotic-free, good healthy protein. So good job on that.
Supposedly no nitrates too.
There you go, which is a preservative, a chemical preservative, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Good job, yeah. All right. So, you know, I touched on this earlier, we'll move on, but the phytonutrients are the chemicals in the plants that really rev up our body's protective system against cancer, okay? So they're the antioxidants that do protect our cells against what? Inflammation happens, and then oxidation is the breakdown. Well, when you have a lot of phytonutrients, a lot of good chemicals, you're protecting that cell so it doesn't break down, so it protects the cell. That's what we're trying to do. You know, it impacts hormone activity, I mean, everything. You know, it protects our cells so that we don't overproduce and get it into that cancer phase of overproduction of cells. So we're trying to stay away from things that trigger inflammation, because inflammation causes oxidation and breakdown of the cell. So we're keeping away from things, but we're bringing in the good guys, the good chemicals, because phytonutrients in our fruits and vegetables are good chemicals, and they're the ones that make our cells strong and robust. So it's a two-way street. Keep away and make more robust. And believe it or not, antibacterial. So vegetables and phytonutrients rock. So doesn't that look good? I mean, I know that, you know, donuts and a cup of coffee it tastes better. But, you know, train your taste buds to love this food. Learn new recipes. Learn how to cook. It's called investing in yourself. Investing in yourself. So, you know, if you love yourself, if you care for yourself, if you want to stick around for your spouse and your grandkids or whatnot, you need to invest in yourself. And so learning to prepare these delicious foods and eat them and truly finish that meal and say, you know, that was good. I think I'll do that again. That's where we need to position ourselves. You know, and there's our fruits. And so the thing about fruits, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't have fruits, but remember, fruit has natural what in it? Sugar. And so, while we want to have 5 to 9 servings of vegetables because they're very low sugar, you know, very low carbohydrate, we don't want to have 5 to 9 servings of vegetables per day because it would be way too much natural sugar. Yeah, thank you. Let me restate that for the audio. We don't want to have 5 to 9 servings of fruits. We want to have about 3 a day. 3 is good. So I'm not a fan of big fruit bowls.
What fruit is the most in sugar?
Fruit, the berries are the lowest. Yeah.
What's the next one?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that question. I just, that's not a factoid I have.
Oranges are the worst one.
Oranges are like, right, you know what's one of the worst ones? Is bananas. Bananas is highest and really high in sugar. Pineapple's really high, and watermelon. Yeah, But you
Things
know,
we got on the counter here.
but you know, hey, but eat them all because they all have unique nutrients and, you know, eating them with a toothpick, you're not gonna get too much. So that's the whole thing, it's all about portions as well, you know, portion control, that other ugly word. So, you know, food is medicine, it really is information, I already, you know, kind of hit on this. Everything that we eat, good and bad, washes over our cells. So, you know, we're in control. We're in control. Nobody is doing this to you, okay? We need to take responsibility and learn. So you don't have to do it all overnight, but I implore you to think about increasing your vegetables. To think about learning about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, to vary your food intake so that you get all the nutrients that you need. Because all of these things, you know, can either turn on the genes that cause, you know, cancer or other chronic illnesses, or turn them off. I'll be honest, I've got a dad and a brother that died of cancer, and I'm not walking around saying, oh, I'm gonna get cancer. I don't think so. I am not gonna get cancer. And you know why? Because I make a veggie omelet for breakfast every morning, and I have a big gigantic bowl of vegetables for lunch with my proteins, and I eat vegetables for dinner. I eat them all day long, along with my fruits, and I'm careful about exposure. I'm limiting and reducing and minimizing my genetic expression of cancer. Now, I don't know if I got it in my gene pool. I might have got my mom's genes, but those are not good either because she's in memory care and she's got Alzheimer's. So I don't want that either. So all the same stuff that I'm doing to not get cancer is all the same stuff I'm doing to not get Alzheimer's. I'm really trying to minimize exposure and increase my nutrients so that I can make those cells really strong and powerful. You know, I just wanted to touch on stuff. Did you have another question?
No, again, I'll, later. Go ahead.
Okay, we can go on, but we'll come back around. I'll leave plenty of time. So, I just wanted to touch on supplements because it typically comes up, and we need to really say, oh, I'm not leaning on my vitamin pill for all my nutrients. We need to eat right, okay? Get all of our nutrients in with our diet, and then, unfortunately, our food does not have all of the nutrients that it used to have 50, 60, 100 years ago. So it is good for us to sometimes even take vitamin D, especially if we find out that it's low, or calcium sometimes, you know, if we have bone issues, or, you know, a multivitamin, I'm a big fan of that. But, you know, honestly, we should really eat our food first. And I just want to tell you, I offer amazing testing. This one here is called a NutriVal. It is a vitamin and mineral test, and it's both a blood and urine collection. And it gives you a report card of what all of your vitamins, you know how on the side of the bottle of the vitamins and minerals, it starts with A, and then C, and then D, and then E, and then all the B's, and zinc, and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's a panel of that. So it shows you what is my report card on my nutrient status, so that I can know if I need a specific nutrient that either I'm not getting enough of, because I eat the same thing every day, or, sorry, or just kidding, or maybe I use more of it. Like, for example, I found out that I use the heck out of magnesium, and if I don't take a whole bunch of magnesium supplements, I'm in deep trouble, both on my levels on paper, and I get cramps and things like that, and I don't sleep as well. So magnesium for me is huge. I mean, I need tons of it, more so than the next guy sometimes. So anyway, this test kind of helps us to know what's going on. Because we know that the test that our doctors do annually is for our kidneys, liver, heart. It is not for our vitamins and minerals. And then this one here is a stool collection, nothing too exciting. But, you know, gut health is so important. And if we have digestive issues, we need to get those right, because that means that we're not digesting and absorbing our food. And so this just helps me to find out, pinpoint where the problem is, you know, between here and here. There's a lot of different stops. And again, I'm not an expert in it, but I have become an expert working with people over time. So it's a very cool test. Notice most of the people here probably qualify for Medicare, not everyone. And if you have traditional Medicare, the red, white, and blue card, these tests are at zero cost. So if you're interested in any of these tests, no cost. I mean, you pay me for the diet and the guidance, but it's just an amazing testing for nothing for your hard-earned Medicare dollars. So wanted to touch on that.
So, excuse me, so how much would it be if you wanted to take those tests?
Oh, so if you were not on Medicare yet, or say some people don't have traditional Medicare, they have an HMO type, both of these tests, Genova, I don't price them, have priced them at $379. They're each $379. Yeah.
And does that include your fee too, or?
No, that's their testing.
Okay.
And that's what they call their cash pay price. I think their list price is like $2,500 because they're super high tech. They're not your garden variety test. They're really, really extremely high tech.
Does it make a difference if you're on Medicare?
Oh, it doesn't make a difference, but if you are on Medicare traditional, they don't charge anything. This company does not charge you, zero cost.
Oh,
I'm thinking of HMO or PPO.
HMO PPO is like cash pay. It's like if you're not on Medicare. They just did a different negotiation.
Is Medicare Advantage not?
Correct, that is the HMO PPO type.
Right, that's PPO.
So it's outside of the traditional Medicare network, yeah.
Medicare pays for the product as well?
So these are test kits, and the company, Genova, they did their own negotiating once upon a time with Medicare,
Okay.
that they found value, Medicare did, they said, okay, if a Medicare patient does this test, we will cover it 100%, and so they don't give you any copay at all.
Okay.
That's the best explanation.
So if you are under treatment by a physician, for example, for celiac,
Right.
should you get a physician's order for that, or should you just go and apply yourself?
For the test,
Yeah.
so, you do not need a physician's order for either one of these two tests, and the reason is because I have a, contract with Genova, okay, I'm a preferred provider, and so I have these test kits in my office, or I can call them or email them and have them shipped to somebody's home. So these don't need a physician's referral. Of course, you would get the results, and I would ask you to turn them into your doctor because they would be part of your medical record. For sure, very valuable.
That leads me to ask on behalf of all of us.
Yes.
Why don't doctors generally talk about nutrition?
I don't know the answer to why doctors don't talk about nutrition, Ed.
They really don't.
That is a conundrum.
It's an ongoing problem.
You
They
know,
don't have time, they're not.
well, yeah,
they're
our
not
medical
interested.
system is
not
not
part of their
designed,
training,
it's not designed to include nutrition, it's designed to work the medical model. And the medical model is, you come in with your problem, he hears it, he comes up with a solution, and he gives you the solution, and you're out in 7 minutes or less, because I have time to do it next time.
But you can buy the kits and do them yourself, is that what you're saying?
I don't buy the kits, they send me these for free,
Right.
and then anybody that wants it done, that if they wanna pay the $379, come to my office, and then you send them the check, you don't pay me, you send Genova the check with the test, because I don't get involved in the pricing of the tests. I don't take a markup, I offer the test, and I get excited about telling people that have Medicare that they're free tests, because they're such amazing tests. But you know, if you're not on Medicare yet, or if you have the HMO PPO type, there's unfortunately, you know, the cash pay price.
Can we call the company directly and tell them I'm on Medicare, could you make me one of those?
No, they will not work with patients, they only work with doctors or practitioners like myself who have an account, because it is impractical to do this level of a test and for you to walk away with it. You wouldn't have the education, the background to interpret and then to know what the plan of action is. So what I do as a practitioner, the value that I bring into it is I tell you what to do with it. Yeah.
And how much do you charge for that?
Yeah, so my fees are as follows. Usually, I like to see you for 2 sessions because one is just we're getting to know each other, and then the follow-up is to make sure that the instructions that I gave you and the education I provided were on track and you're clear. So the initial session is an hour and a half. See, I don't spend 7 minutes with you. I spend an hour and a half, and then 2 weeks later, I see you for another hour. And so the cost of that is $299.
And it's not covered by Medicare?
And it is not covered by Medicare. And I really don't use any insurance, so like I'm not paneled with any insurances anyway.
Could you talk about PUFAs because the unsaturated issues?
Yeah. So, Ed's question is about PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Woo, falling off my own heels. So, PUFAs are fats. There are 3 kinds of fats, and those are basically like corn oil, okay? And corn oil is a PUFA, okay? And we actually know that it's okay for us, but not the best. The best is monounsaturated. So that's olive oil and avocado. So we've got monos up here, olive oil, seeds and nuts and avocados, and we've got corn oil here, canola is a PUFA, and then we've got saturated, which is animal fats. So all the fats that are in dairy, all the fats that are nice, fat on the meat, chicken skin, those are the saturated. And then we've got trans over here, which is the artificial ones.
I cook
Sorry,
I
just.
cook my salmon every night in butter, is that wrong?
I think that's excellent. Because the amount of butter that's gonna stick to that piece of salmon is what, 1/4 of a teaspoon when it's all said and done? Yeah, I don't get, I don't get crazy about the amount of butter that you might consume on, putting some pieces of butter on top because it's not deep fried and soaked into it. Big difference of a breaded, fried in butter or some oil, the amount of oil you're gonna get there is gonna be tremendous. Yeah. So I think we're almost done and we're probably there. Consider the testing. Last, I just wanna say, I think I've been saying this already. Elevate food to the place of importance. You know what? We show up at the golf course on time. We show up at the card game on time. We do all those things that are important to us. You're here because you care about your health. You've undergone, prostate cancer treatment, or possibly are undergoing it. And you want to get to the other side and stay well. And so this is going to help you in that regard. So don't leave this off the table as a tool. It's not all about the pills your doctor gives you. It's about what you put into your mouth and what you expose your body to.
So it's work.
Are you able to relate all of this information with any specificity to prostate issues, prostate cancer, etc.? And the second separate question is if you could advise us on the best sources of protein as well.
So I did not do any research to prepare for this to bring you studies where they have specifically correlated the things that I said today to be helpful in either the treatment or overcoming or prevention of prostate cancer. But it is definitely a medical conclusion that all types of cancer, and prostate cancer is not a separate issue, are supported by antioxidants, phytonutrients, and reducing exposure. So I did not find anything, I didn't go the extra mile, if that's what you're asking, to bring you. I didn't wanna make this techie. This is not a technical presentation. I wanted to give you inspiration of what things to go for and what things to stay away from, things you can actually walk out of here and start doing. And your second question was about protein.
Best sources of protein.
That's a great question. So in the animal kingdom, good sources of protein, I always start with eggs. Eggs are my favorite. I do like organic because then they don't have the pesticides and the antibiotics and so forth. So other sources of proteins would be poultry. So your turkey over here, chicken, of course, everybody's growing wings from how much chicken they eat, and fish. And so seafood is amazing. So the more salmon you can eat, the more, fresh caught fish, the better. We want to stay a little bit away from farm raised if we can, because we really don't know the conditions of those fish, right? So those are the top ones. Then we get into beef. The poor beef industry, from a cardiac standpoint and just generally speaking, saturated fat, we shouldn't eat as much beef as we would like to and we're used to. Once a week is probably okay. Keeping it leaner is better. You might have guidelines that make it so that you shouldn't have beef even that often, but I'm just giving you, generally speaking, once a week is good. And pork, believe it or not, they raise pork differently now, and so it's very lean. So pork is on par, I know, with chicken because it's extremely dry and lean now, okay? So like a pork chop that, a center cut pork chop or the tenderloin, very lean, very lean. So those are all good forms. And so plant-based, real quick, beans. Beans stand in their own little community, right? Red beans, white beans, black beans, garbanzos, split peas, okay, lentils. And so you can have meatless meals with beans and say brown rice or quinoa. So that could be your entree, and then do, spinach on the side and some tomatoes and avocados for a little salad. It's a good meal. So beans, yeah. What about lamb? I forgot about lamb. So lamb is a little fatty. So lamb sort of belongs in that beef category. Yeah. Now, just the tiny little lamb chops, those are a little leaner. But lamb itself, if it's a leg of lamb, it's really hard to separate out. It's pretty fatty, right?
Shellfish.
That's seafood. And back in the day, when I was trained, you couldn't eat shrimp. You couldn't have eggs, you couldn't have shrimp. But now we know that the cholesterol that's in our food does not impact our heart health and does not raise our cholesterol. So you should be eating as much shrimp as you want, lobster and crab if you can afford it. You just want to watch how much butter you dip in it. Yeah. Use a little cocktail sauce instead. And it's a good option. So no worries about heart disease and eating shellfish that we used to be worried about, or eggs. Good question. Thank you.
I have often heard, we eat a lot of crackers,
Right.
but we avoid partially hydrogenated, expeller pressed, and so I was curious, and then trans fats. We've been avoiding that, so if it says anything like that on there, we don't buy the cracker. I didn't think expeller pressed was good, is that a?
No, so let me back up. What was the first ingredient?
Partially hydrogenated?
Oh, so partially hydrogenated means that they took a good oil and they made it into a trans fat. So that's code for trans fat. So you want to avoid partially hydrogenated because that equals trans fats, artificial fats that will elevate your cholesterol and inflammatory. Expeller pressed is not necessarily bad for you, so that kind of gets mixed into the bag of right next to the bad guys. So expeller press is a processing for oils, but it's not a bad process. So that one, I know it's so confusing, but do not have to avoid expeller press.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
Well, I have two questions actually. we get back to sugars, what about stevia? And then also,
Yeah.
regarding red meat, if it was organic, there is a link between prostate cancer and red meat.
Yes.
Now, I was thinking if organic meat didn't have the chemicals, maybe it would be a lot safer.
So, the question about stevia, stevia does sit in its own category. And it's a leaf, okay? And, what they do is they dry it and make it into a powder, and it's super sweet. So that is neither sugar nor an artificial sweetener. That is a plant-based sweetener that currently has good press, has good science behind it. They have not found that it's bad for us because it's not artificial. So far so good on the stevia, folks. And then what was the other one? Oh,
Meat and the chemicals.
so yes, beef most certainly has been associated with prostate and colon cancer in particular. So, generally speaking, what I would tell you is, lighten up on the beef. And there is most definitely two things. The grass-fed beef, of course, will not have those extra antibiotics and pesticides, okay? But how we cook our beef also can be carcinogenic. Now, don't kill the messenger. Maybe you just won't have me back next year because I'm getting ready to tell you that when you put your meat on the grill, right, and you cook it, you know how you love those brown edges? When the meat gets charred, that is a chemical that has occurred now in that meat that wasn't there before it got charred, that is very, very toxic to us, in particular to men.
Why
So-
does it taste so good?
I don't know why it tastes so good. I know, but vegetables, on the other hand, you can char vegetables and it doesn't have that. So char away on your vegetables, see? You still get to grill and char your vegetables. Just your proteins, I know.
Would you care to comment either on spirulina or pomegranate as a antioxidant and an anti-cancer sort of thing?
I have not done much research or, delving into either one, so I cannot comment on spirulina or pomegranate. But pomegranate, just it being a fruit, it has all those phenols, all the red phytonutrients, is amazing. So I would definitely recommend it. And spirulina is an algae that has been around for, on this planet. And as of the last, few centuries, it's gotten a lot of traction, and so a lot of people love it and believe in it. I don't know a lot about it, so it's out of my wheelhouse.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What about the beef liver and honey?
Beef, liver, and honey, those are our two questions. So the bad news about liver is we shouldn't be eating it.
Oh,
Oh, my.
Or chicken, because, oh, yeah, it's, you know what? Everything goes through the liver, and so whenever that cow or chicken was killed, whatever it was trying to get rid of and process is all there. So that's their clearinghouse, like it's our clearinghouse. It's their detoxifying organ. So it's gonna have whatever it was trying to get rid of when it got slaughtered. So it doesn't, have things that we should have. Yeah.
Honey?
Oh, and honey, honey is still sugar, and I know it's natural, remember? Bananas and cherries and pears are natural. But we should eat very little bit, it's not a food group. So we should put like a little bit on our toast or a little quarter teaspoon in our tea. We should use it very little bit, not get crazy.
You mentioned, no one's brought up cheese. Can you-
Oh, cheese.
I mean, that's obviously a good protein, but
It's a good protein, and again, I try to stay a little bit neutral with, because there are so many studies about dairy and all these foods, and like what you were saying, what exactly causes prostate cancer? And you know, there's some literature that dairy is not good for the guys, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna stand here and say don't have it, but there's a body of literature. Now, you go to the American Cancer Society, you know, they're not gonna say that. They are not going to say stay away from cheese. Right. So, what I would tell you about controversial things like that is, don't overdo it. Anything in the dairy column, if you have disposable income, treat yourself to organic dairy products so that at least you don't have the extra stuff that you don't want coming in it. And a quick secret, if anybody here lives near Trader Joe's, they have the best cheese department that has like New Zealand cheese and cheese from all over the world and all of those countries. It doesn't have to say organic because it is organic because they don't raise their cows that way. So like, you know, you can count on the cheeses at Trader Joe's that are from outside of the country, or some of theirs will say organic. But at least those don't have the extra additives. What else have we got? No?
I heard that maple syrup is better than honey. Do you have any comment on that?
I don't think that maple syrup is better than honey.
Okay.
I would put them on par with each other because they're both, you know, maple comes out of the maple tree, it's natural. And so I would use just a very little of it.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know what, I would enjoy it because, you know, life is for enjoying it. So I would say, have a little honey, have a little maple syrup. I mean, try not to have pancakes and French toast every day so you have to have maple syrup. But you know, on a weekend, look, the other day, I made, out of my, I get a certain millet gluten-free bread, and I made a French toast. I put, you know, vanilla in there, and I have stevia drops, organic stevia drops, and it was delicious. So I made a French toast, and I put 100% maple syrup on top. It was probably the equivalent of a teaspoon. That thing tasted so sweet and so good. I mean, I was in heaven. And then my husband said, "You didn't offer me one of those." And I said, "You're right, sorry." Okay. So I guess next time I'll offer to make them one. So, yeah, I think that you should have honey and you should have maple syrup, but, you know, it's sugar, so little bits here and there.
Oh, chocolate.
Is there one book you would recommend to sum up all this?
What's the question?
A book. You know, I don't have one right now, but let me think about that, and I'll get it to Ed and Dave, and I will send it so you guys can circulate it.
Your
Good question. Yeah, I had another question over here.
Someone asked chocolate.
Oh, chocolate. Thank you for asking. Yes, please. So chocolate is an antioxidant. Chocolate, yes. So cocoa, right, the cocoa bean, you know, coffee has antioxidant properties. And so, I have, you know, coffee with my chocolate every day. Just kidding. So the dark chocolate is made with very small amounts of sugar, if any. So, milk chocolate has more sugar, dark chocolate has very little sugar. So if you're kind of like a chocoholic, my guilty pleasure is Trader Joe's 72% dark chocolate bar. It's scored into 8 squares. The package is like a lime green, almost like these chairs. And I break one and I have one every night. Oh my gosh, that's my dessert. So every day of my life, I treat myself to a piece of chocolate. I have that to look forward to. I have that, and then when I walk by stuff, I go, you know, compared to my dark chocolate. And if chocolate doesn't have nuts in it, I might think about it, but I get very picky when it comes to sweets. I just won't eat any cookie. If it's not a really good cookie, I'm not gonna eat it. So just be judicious about what you choose. Chocolate's good for you. If you like chocolate, buy cocoa powder, put it in your oatmeal, make chocolate oatmeal. Put it in your coffee, make like a mocha thing. Put it in your shakes. Make a hot chocolate out of almond milk, or, you know, if you're drinking regular milk, organic milk. So you can just use it practically anywhere, cocoa, right? Because cocoa is just the cocoa, doesn't have any sugar, and then kind of sweeten it with stevia, okay, or a little bit of honey. Every once in a while.
Can you overdo using peanut butter as a source of protein?
The question is, can you overdo peanut butter as a source of protein? So believe it or not, you know how we had healthy fats were nuts and seeds? Okay, so peanuts, peanut butter belongs to the nuts and seeds category, and their predominant nutrient is fat. So when you think about peanut butter, how you put it on your bread or your crackers or your apple or whatnot, think of it like butter. So it is a fat that happens to have a little bit of protein in it. So it by no stretch will be like your protein component for the meal. I know that our kids grew up and we grew up on peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every day of our lives. That's okay. But we probably had some protein somewhere else in the day that made it right. I'm just telling you, peanut butter is not a substantial apples for apples with turkey or with chicken or eggs. But it's delicious.
So coffee's good for you?
Unless you have a reason that you can't tolerate the caffeine, there's a lot of more good studies about coffee that it helps with diabetes, with Alzheimer's, keeps everybody happy. It does have antioxidants in it. But you know, you might have digestive issues or heart issues and you can't take the caffeine. That's a separate topic.
Right.
How do I get as thin as you?
You know, I just, I eat consistently, and I do have treats, you know, I do have treats. There's a bakery in Gulfgate that, Heavenly Cupcakes, that on Fridays, they make mini cupcakes, and I know the owner, and, she sells them in minimum of 4, I'm like, oh, too bad, I can't buy one. So I buy a minimum of 4, and, you know, I'll take them home, and you know, I'll have a mini cupcake and share that with my husband, and then one the next day. They hold up a day. So, you know, you can treat yourself, but just learn how to make your palate love things in small amounts that you shouldn't have. Portion control.
And then your fee, is that for both sessions or just one? Is it
The
$2.99?
$2.99 is for the 2 sessions, the hour and a half and the hour follow-up.
How about husband and wife?
You know, I'm happy to have you both, but I won't be able to entertain like both your issues. I'll be able to do a plan that will work mostly for both of you. Yeah. Happy to do that. It's the same amount of time.
We have to wrap it up, but 2 things. I spoke with Nora earlier, so if you have individual questions, please have me entertain them. I'm also available for non-dietary issues. I do want to thank Nora and all of you for coming. Don't forget, a month from today is our next meeting. It should be of great interest as well. One closing comment, let's see if Nora agrees. The last speaker who was here was Dr. Sylvester, and he was asked a similar question to that gentleman as to diet issues, and he said a heart-healthy diet tends to be good for those who have prostate cancer. Would you agree?
100%. I agree.
And he was quite the researcher. He didn't have anything else to offer either.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you know why? Because a heart-healthy diet is an anti-cancer diet, is an anti-diabetes diet, is an anti-every chronic dementia diet. So it is absolutely true.